Nice to meet everybody. I'll just do like just a quick introduction. So my name is Matt, and I am based in Singapore. I entered the NFT space maybe a couple months ago. And so I sort of focus on AI, deep dream generation art. And then I've been starting to collect a little bit myself over the past few weeks. So I actually did some research on you, CAWA, and I really like your collection, and I'm really excited to pick your brain. But yeah, that's me. I'm just curious. I guess maybe introductions from everybody else.
Thank you. I'm Cao Ying. I'm from Shanghai, and I'm now the managing director of the Digital Renaissance Foundation. We are a foundation like somehow like actually this is an investment institute. We invest into a lot of this kind of like especially DeFi stuff and also kind of layer 1, layer 2 different kind of crypto projects. And definitely NFT, especially crypto art, is somehow like a kind of like focus for us at this period. And we have been collecting since somehow like the beginning of the whole, the crypto art industry since the 2019. And at the beginning, we collect something like from Squirterer, and now we collect a lot from other kind of emerging marketplaces everywhere. And also we have invested several kind of those mainstream platforms like Squirterer and the Mint.base and some others. And besides that, we are also kind of like we purchase and build upon those like virtual lands, like those so-called crypto voxel puzzles and the decentralized land slot, something like that. And yeah, this is what some kind of like the general introduction for us. Thank you.
Very nice. Thanks, CAWA. How about you, Pauline?
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Bianca, and I am known as Squirterer in the crypto art space. So I am an artist, and I started minting on NFTs last March 2020. So I'm about a year now, and I am on Known Origin, Maker's Place, Rarible, and OpenSea. And so yeah, I have been making paintings, some other self-portrait photography as well, with GIF arts and whatever.
Great. So I think we can jump into some of the questions here. So well, maybe if we can maybe take a step back on you, CAWA, and see I guess how you entered the space. If you could discuss I guess how you discovered NFTs and how you started collecting.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you. Yeah, actually, I start from like somehow those the CryptoKitty, the very first so-called NFT, and to collecting at that time it's just for fun. You know, CryptoKitty has bring us a lot of fun. Also, a lot of the kind of CryptoKitty like NFT stuff, like the very popular one like Axie Infinity, and some kind of other so-called crypto. Plus collectibles and plus some kind of like GameFi stuff. And but gradually we found out there's something new at that time. For example, in 2019, we found some very kind of talented guys. They were joining something with NFT stuff, and also some quite amazing platform they emerged, like for example, Squirterer, Mint.base, and Known Origin. Those platforms. Actually, and also some friends around us who previously maybe were like somehow like an engineer or some other kind of those technical, the kind of personnels, and then they began to create something as artwork. And then at the beginning, we acted as some kind of like patron. We supported those guys. We sponsored their works. And then as a result, we collect a lot of those things from their works. And this is somehow like the beginning of the whole somehow my experience of crypto art collecting. And so from the somehow like the beginning of the collection, and I found that a lot of things that actually are in vacancy. For example, curation and the exhibition and the art dealer and the agent and the critics, and a lot of those are somehow totally in vacancy at the beginning of that time. So I try to do something to help those artists, to help those creators. Sometimes they are just the amateurs, to have somehow so like those kind of rule. So I worked with like Norwegian, like Mintbase, and also like Superior Mixplace to have some kind of those so-called online editorials stuff. For example, I wrote some kind of like articles to introduce those artists I'm working with to the public. For example, Ferocious and the Robbie Barrows. So nowadays they are very famous, but at that time they are just like somehow everyone else. So and then I found out if we would like to have more kind of presence in front of the non-crypto public, we need kind of something like the venue, the virtual venues. Nowadays we have a name called metaverse. So I start to work with those like, I mean, kind of like so-called metaverse projects, and so surrounding kind of other like the founders. For example, we worked with, I'm working with like the Republic. We founded a kind of like a fund, actually this is. And not only a fund, it's kind of like a virtual real estate development company. We purchased a lot of those land slots from everywhere, and then we combine those slots into one, and we kind of like build up some kind of like just like a block with some kind of features. For example, fashion. We just unveiled one. I think this is maybe the world first like virtual, a virtual like a virtual shopping mall or virtual fashion shopping mall, something like that. And then we invited some other fashion brands to establish their virtual store within our blog. And then so that those artists and also those other creators, they can present their artworks within this kind of blog. We create a venue, create plus some kind of those exhibition and some kind of those curation articles. And also besides that, I'm also trying to have kind of like a tourism, kind of crypto art tourism or metaverse tourism, organize people everywhere, especially in China, since people have nowhere to go during the COVID. They cannot travel abroad. They cannot go to Singapore or go to New York, the kind of metropolis. So I organize those people, young people. Then we go to those kind of galleries on CryptoVoxel, on Decentraland, and to join their online exhibitions and to purchase during this kind of tour. So this is something like I'm doing. And back to the question, the beginning of my collection and as so on, the whole kind of like the very natural kind of process why I go to nowadays. Yeah.
Very nice. I know you mentioned Ferocious, and I know he's been quite the hot artist in the past few weeks, actually in the past couple of months, actually. And I saw you were able to get one of his pieces early on. So I guess the next question is like for other artists that are looking to get noticed or I guess find that attention from collectors. I guess what do you look for when you're looking for your next piece of artist or your next Ferocious?
Actually, we found Ferocious at the very first day. He somehow uploaded. He uploaded his works on Superior, and at that time I was totally amazed by his work, since although he actually was just 17, very young, and totally has no kind of like experience for, kind of like, if for a professional artist, One should be kind of graduate from some kind of art school, maybe famous art school, and have kind of his own studio, but totally no for futures. But his works was kind of like, masterpieces, just according to the work itself. Then I told my surrounding friends, we have a very small group called the Shanghai Art Tale. It's kind of a collective for collectors and some artists in Shanghai. And I told those guys, my friends, that, okay, I found a star, I found a future star, because his work is extraordinary, is amazing. We should bought all his somehow available those works on Superior, and then one piece. We bought around 4 pieces at that time at Superior of Futures, those very beginning pieces. And then we went to his somehow like the Twitter and some other his personal website, his artist website, and found out, okay, he is very young and he has no experience, but he is very promising to be a good artist. So this is actually somehow a very typical or identical process. We identify one artist, and then we purchase, we collect, and we grew with the artist. We enjoy this kind of things. So if let me to somehow define who can be the next people like Fuchsius or like Robbie Barrett. Firstly, I would like to say the work itself. Art is somehow like a medium. Somehow artists, for example, like everyone here, artists, they develop somehow the medium as express. They develop his art as a medium to express himself to the public and also to himself. So this is very important. Art really, those artists really, really appreciate their own artworks, first of all, and then his artworks are really extraordinary. This is second. And third, somehow like the very, common one, like the background where he or she graduated from, and somehow he's some other kind of like, those kind of social things. This is the third thing. So firstly is this artist should be some kind of, person who is outstanding, yeah, and who has really something to say. And the second is that his work is really a media, that can express himself and also can somehow even dig deeper into his ego. He has, beneath his consciousness, the so-called ego. So this is what we are looking for, person and artwork, and then his background. Yeah, I think his background is not necessary. Person and personality, or his inner ethos, or inner kind of like, shine, something like that, and then his work. This is actually what we are trying to spot.
Very nice. Sorry, Bianca, did you want to ask a question? So can maybe go back and forth if you had something.
So with the things moving so fast in the NFT space, what is your advice to artists who have just joined to get noticed by collectors?
You mean what kind of like? Excuse me, could you repeat the question again? Sorry, I cannot catch you.
Yeah, since the space is moving so fast. So what is your advice to artists who have just joined to get noticed by collectors, since the market is so saturated, there's so many artists, there's so many new artists, and like, how can we present ourselves so we get noticed by you?
I see. Yeah, I think firstly you should be noticed, right? So you should have kind of like presence within this kind of social medias. If you are too quiet, no one can see you, no one can hear from you. So you should kind of make some noise. Fuchsius is very noisy. he tweeted hundreds of tweets every day. So he is a little bit too noisy, but this is good for artists. He wants to be heard, actually. He wants to be heard. So for artists, you should be like somehow at the same kind of like sentiment or kind of mode like Furious, want to be heard and to be somehow very, very active on those social medias so that other ones can hear you, other ones can see you. I think this is the first point, to have some kind of presence in front of the whole public. And the second thing is that after collectors have somehow heard from you, have seen you, what you are doing, then what kind of messages you are going to deliver. I think this is somehow the really important and the most difficult thing. So nowadays, there are a lot of those, you see, artists or creators. A lot of those guys actually are not somehow like self-deemed artists. A lot of our guys, actually, they are designers, and some of them are engineers. So to have somehow, to have an identity as an artist is very important. Who can be called as an artist? I think the first thing is this guy should deem himself as an artist. It means he has something to say, and he creates things totally by him. From the bottom of his heart, not just want to sell something. If he just would like to sell something, he is just like a designer. A typical designer way is there is a customer who would like to have some fancy painting, fancy patterns, and then people pay he to buy, to create something. So this is a typical designer. But for artists create things, create artworks only somehow like on behalf himself or herself. This is the artist way. And this is the first one, somehow like after you have been heard, after you have been seen, yeah, you should somehow like create things totally by your, totally on behalf of your own heart. And then what kind of messages you would like to bring. So I see a lot of artists, they are trying to somehow like, to use, somehow to create in a various kind of ways. This is good. CryptoArt and NFT should be open, should be some kind of like full of diversity. But for a lot of people, especially crypto native guys like us, what we are seeking in this domain is kind of like so-called, you can call this like crypto native artworks. That means that the theme is very important. What kind of messages you are going to deliver, what kind of themes you are going to somehow pose to this artwork is very important. So we are going to look some kind of artists who can not only, at the first place, he should be speak on behalf of himself. And then secondly, that he can speak on behalf of the whole crypto community. What we are somehow seeking, the ethos behind the community. For example, decentralization, definitely very important. And the diversity, somehow is that somehow kind of being friendly to all these kind of subcultural groups like LGBT, like minority, like something others, those subcultural group. And so this is a diversity. And the third is that somehow to advocate for kind of some other, ethos, or even you can call this a dogma for crypto native people. For example, why I collect some guys who create some kind of so-called cryptocurrency artwork. It is a little bit different with crypto artwork. A cryptocurrency artworks, they use some very symbolic items, for example, like BTC, like fiat currency, like Federal Reserve, like the almighty eyes in the pyramid, something like this is some kind of a little bit symbolic. Although there are a lot of those kind of artworks which trying to employ a lot of those kind of iconic some kind of symbols, but very few of them can really touch the essence of the so-called cryptocurrency. Kind of like it's kind of like philosophical things. I mean, those artworks or artists would like to kind of deliver. So this is the very tricky. Tricky, it means that for a crypto artwork, I mean for a crypto artist, it's a very nature that he want to bring some kind of symbolic, I mean symbols or icons of cryptocurrency into his works. But very few of them can somehow deliver true message, and not too much. I mean, not too much, just several of them. So this is very interesting. So actually, cryptocurrency artwork and the crypto artworks have some kind of something in common, but actually there's a little bit totally different within their essence, within their some kind of ethos. But this is good. I think this is somehow like we are going to somehow to seek within the market crypto artists or artists who can somehow say something really different and really inspirational for cryptocurrency native guys or crypto native guys like us, but not too much, not too hard. And his artwork is really somehow mind freshen, or kind of something like that. So this is at this stage I'm looking for an artist who speak, who create on behalf of himself or herself. At the meantime, he can speak on behalf of the whole cryptocurrency community.
Yeah, because he represents the whole community as well. And I do agree with that. By being authentic, that is really a great advice.
Yeah, but I think this is just not kind of advice, since I think every artist have his own kind of feature or his own way to create, iconic way, stylish way to create. And also every artist should have his own story to be told. So this is just merely what somehow people, especially just me, maybe just me, I'm trying to Spotify. And also this is only kind of like some kind of like something I'm trying to looking for only at this stage. Yeah, since why I would like to trying to find something like that is if since all you guys are not in China. China now has very kind of strict policies against Bitcoin, against all these kind of cryptocurrencies and all these ethos behind those cryptocurrencies. So I would like to have some kind of those artworks to speak on behalf of us, since we cannot speak in the public that crypto is good, BTC is good, cryptocurrency is a revolution. Yeah, this is totally impossible in China. But I can use the artwork to speak on behalf of me. So this is why I say that.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
That's great. And I guess when it comes to translating that personal story and themselves in their work, now that digital media has sort of opened up, more experiential ways to experience the art, I guess a lot of artists are wondering, also even traditional artists, how, as a collector, how do you view the new medias to sort of innovate the art pieces, such as like music or using sounds? Or I know people are getting into more of the 3D AR space as well. So I think a lot of artists are curious from a collector's point of view, what kind of value does that sort of bring, especially when it comes to bringing out their stories.
Yeah, sorry, my kitty is.
Wow.
I think that this is a very typical question I always discuss with my artist friends in China. one artist is trying to do this kind of thing. He is trying to combine a lot of those multimedia technologies or multimedia tools or mediums into his new work. He is trying, I just like to take this as an example to somehow to answer this question. He is going to have a metaverse-like artwork. And this metaverse-like artwork, at the first place, it is somehow metaverse. And you mean, you see that there are a lot of some kind of like land slots and buildings, and also and people can have identities. And then he would like to use some kind of like VR stuff and AR stuff to and somehow to strengthen, to intensify somehow the experience. And also he is using some kind of so-called GPT-3. This kind of sound very popular. I mean, the most cutting edge AI technology that people can use this to create some kind of like NPC, a smart NPC. Those NPC can have some kind of like personalities, just like real human. They can talk with you. They can work with each other. NPC can work with each other. And also he is using some cryptography technology. And it means that you can put your kind of like your thoughts, your secret thoughts into this metaverse, and then totally turn into some kind of hash code, and no one can interpret without some kind of like key. And also you can create some kind of like a secret hole. You can put all your secret into this hole, and only you or maybe no one also can somehow interpret that this kind of secrets. And also he is going to use a lot of those kind of so-called technologies or mediums to combine into his art. So this is a very typical somehow like a way now those artists would like to use. The reason behind this is there are too many so-called new fancy mediums or tools or technologies, what you say, yeah, like that. So artists is a very somehow that very he full of curiosity. Artists are always would like to try something new, whether a new color, whether a new scene, or whether somehow like those new mediums, new technologies. So it's quite common. But you know, to combine too many this kind of elements into one artwork, maybe will be somehow like too heavy for artwork. Yeah, to explore somehow the the extent of the some kind of one certain kind of technology or medium is very difficult. For example, you can see a lot of those so-called mono cream or some single color artwork. There are a lot of those things during the last 60s to 80s, during the last century. A lot of artworks, they just use one kind of pattern, one kind of like color to draw things. Especially there are some famous artists in South Korea, in Japan. They call the so-called in Chinese it's called Wu Pai, and say that in English it's called material school. They just would like to explore one single some kind of material like wood or like a steel or like some other material, and go deeper into the very extent of the material. So I think we now need this kind of people to dig deep into somehow the real far extent of one single medium, one single somehow tool, like for example, just a VR, or just like the smart contract, or just like the cryptographic technology, something like that. And then to somehow extend the very broad, the very broad land of the technology or of the medium. So this is somehow what artists can somehow can do nowadays. Not only combine all those fancy stuff into one pot. Yeah.
You know, in these new mediums, like you said, you know, to really you know, tell a new story, but also sort of you know, innovate in their own sort of categories, in their own spaces. So yeah, I think it's very interesting to see sort of where artists are going to go. I know we're quite early on in the NFT space, and I think as the artists and the technology and even the blockchain technology, as it starts to build, I think we're going to see a lot more creative things coming out. I think I saw I forgot who the artist was, but when she said she was designing 3D models in the metaverse, and she built her dream home on Mars, and then she sold it. Yeah, I thought that was very, very interesting. Yeah, I thought that was beautiful. But yeah, so I'm really excited to sort of see that kind of innovation in the space. And then even as from collectors, I've also been hearing how NFTs and how you can build upon and remix art as a way to sort of continue that way to I guess collect art and also make art as well. Also on the blockchain, to be able to remix it with smart contracts in the future is something that is also quite exciting to think about.
It is, I agree. It's so exciting. So yeah, I have another. It is, I agree. It's so exciting. So yeah, I have another question for you. So do you prefer, or do collectors prefer, one platform over the other?
Yeah, actually, at the beginning, you see, there's no huge difference between all those platforms, Superior, Norwegian, and Marketplace. Actually, especially, for example, Superior only do kind of single edition things, and the mixed places and Norwegian, they also issue kind of multi-edition artworks. So this is now just the only difference between these three so-called earliest platforms, right? But nowadays, more platforms are emerging. For example, NFT Gateway. NFT Gateway is doing really good. You see, they have various kind of so-called like the daily job, right? They have also kind of like some kind of even some GameFi practices. For example, you can combine several kind of artworks into one and claim, so-called redeem another single precious one from the platform. And also they even can have some kind of so-called brand box. Park has issued several so-called brand box like artworks on NFT Gateway before. So NFT Gateway is kind of utilizing a lot of those so-called techniques, purely crypto-like, I mean, DeFi-like practices from those previous DeFi domains. And also some other new platforms. For example, there's one called Top Bidder. Top Bidder is using a kind of so-called radical market mechanism to refresh the whole bidding process of previous way. For example, people on Top Bidder cannot have a permanent ownership of one single artwork. Everyone offer a higher price, 10% higher than the previous price of the previous owner, then can take the ownership, take the NFT from the previous owner with no somehow consent from the previous owner. So he is using kind of liquidity or liquidified ownership way, something like that. And some other places, they are trying to securitize or particularize those ownerships of one single artworks. And also some platform, for example, there's a very famous somehow like platform called Dada, originated from the New York. And actually, this is actually the first so-called crypto art gallery or crypto art somehow art residency, virtual residency like that. He is using kind of so-called fluid, kind of like continuous the so-called way to combine those artworks into one. And this is a very typical somehow like the there's a terminology to call this, called so-called execute or execute corpus. You see, execute corpus, totally different. So no meaning. This is a way which was utilized 100 years ago. At that time, some very avant-garde guys in Paris, they somehow like Dali, those guys, they work together. But everyone has totally different kind of style, but they work together with randomly. So a lot of those kind of platforms, they are trying to explore the extent of the of the smart contract technology, of the crypto technologies, and to create something new. So this is something also very exciting, very amazing, other than just the artwork itself. So back to the question, for collector, yeah, we do somehow have some kind of like preference towards one certain kind of platform. For example, I'm a huge fan of Superreal. Since Superreal have, I think, very good taste. Almost all these famous artists, actually, you can say that they are graduated from Superreal. Yeah, like Fuchsias typically, and Robbie Barrett. Yeah, and also some other like X Kobe, Matt Cain, a lot of money, Osinach, or Simpson. A lot of those nowadays famous artists, they began their crypto art career from Superreal. So this is very good. And also I love NFT Gateway. NFT Gateway, he combined a lot of the interesting, even some kind of full of fun practices into those kind of way of collection, and also like selling things like that. And also, I think Top Bidder, I mentioned this platform is also interesting. A new way for he is trying to redefine somehow the ownership. What is the definition of ownership? Yeah. And also, I think other places are also good. For example, like Maker's Place. Maker's Place, somehow actually makes MP is evolving very, very quickly. You see a lot of other features which has just been somehow employed by other platforms, then Maker's Place will very quickly somehow put these features onto his own platform. So he is learning. I mean, MP is learning, very somehow even radically from everyone. So this is also good for for platforms. And also another platform I would like to mention is Snark.art. This is a platform based in New York, based in Eastern Village. So he is working with some established artists, not just the crypto native artists. He is working with various kind of established artists. And this platform has very good curator, has very good art director who actually has been working with various kind of those famous gallery, those like museums, like Hermitage in St. Petersburg and the Metropolis Museum in New York. So that he can, this platform can bring those so-called traditional, literally traditional or established artists into this domain. And actually, you see that NFT Gateway is also trying to do this. NFT Gateway has been working with some established artists like Daniel Asham, yeah, and also some like Mr. Doodle, those kind of very famous established artists. He trying to let those established one to walk into, the crypto domain. This is also good. So you see, everyone in this market, every platform, every marketplaces in this, in the crypto art domain are trying to bring something new, to bring something really has value into the crypto art world. So this is good. This is why, the crypto art will have prosperity. And this is also why those crypto art works, the early day crypto art works, will have huge value in the future, since this somehow they are full of talented and somehow committed people within this domain, artists, curators, those marketplace founders.
I do agree with that. And also, just to add a little bit, I also love the platforms who listen to the community, to who listen to the collectors and the artists, what we need to innovate, what we need to add more, what we need to improve. So yeah, I love platforms like those too.
Yeah, yes, yeah. Yes, yeah, and also I would like to say that nowadays all those platforms actually they are just a marketplace. Some have kind of like grew as a curators, but what I see that in the future they will have a totally community run platform or so-called marketplace that decentralized the kind of curation, decentralized the kind of collection, decentralized kind of artwork sourcing, decentralized artist sourcing from the purely from the community. And maybe this is not somehow a typical marketplace. This can be just a line of protocol. And everyone can combine this protocol onto his website to have some kind of his personalized so-called front desk or kind of UI. So I see that this is a very DeFi way, a very typical kind of like crypto way. Everyone can have a DeFi protocol and others can combine those DeFi modules, protocol as a modules into kind of product. So I see that in the future, there will also kind of like the so-called CryptoArt module, and the people can combine various kind of module according to their functionalities into one, and to create his own dreamlike marketplace or kind of like with some kind of like front end.
Yeah, that's going to be very exciting to see, especially like the decentralized market spaces and sort of how they would evolve from a community-based DeFi level. I think that's really exciting to see. Another big question for artists is pricing work. So especially new artists entering the space. And I've actually even seen like traditional artists, I think like locally, they might be in galleries and this is the first time they're actually having to promote their work. I've had artists talk to me and say it's very frustrating. And then they have to, think about how to price their work on this new marketplace. And, they're used to getting, a specific amount. And then I've seen the other end of the spectrum where, it's a new artist. This is the first time they've ever, were able to find a platform to sell their art pieces. So, you get this question a lot where, artists both, that have been artists for many years, now entering the NFT space, and then new artists that are just starting out, looking how to price their work. And you see, a lot of people experimenting with their listing prices. And it's funny to see, I guess, like, because everything's on the blockchain, I love to see sort of the psychology around it. But I think the big question is, what is your take on, pricing work, and should artists, lower their prices in order to get that exposure? And that, in hopes that, with the secondary market and the royalties, that naturally that's kind of where they would get, their investment back.
Yeah, what I see is that some so-called established artists, they are expecting to have higher, kind of sales price than their previous artworks in the crypto art domain. But very few of them can achieve this, since artists in the crypto art domain are facing totally different audience, different collectors, they have, what I like to say is, maybe this is not correct, but I have to say they have different customer base. Yeah, for example, why those so-called established artists, they do have some kind of very high sales record before, because they are facing one certain group kind of customers or collectors. And these so-called collectors, they will pay a lot continuously to his work, continuously, even a lifelong time. That's very typical. A lot of those famous established artists, their customer, their collectors are just somehow, you can say that within less than 50 people or even 15 people. This is somehow not very real in the traditional artwork. And also they have kind of so-called coalition among galleries, among their collector, or you can call these guys actually their patrons, and also auction house, and those famous generalists, and those also differently those academic, those professors, those deans. Yeah, this is very common. But in the crypto art world, we have totally different kind of like the so-called, you can say, influence pyramid or influence structure or power structure. Different way of like to present your artworks, not on those galleries, but on those, yeah, everyone can upload his artwork on OpenSea. And also you are facing different kind of collector base, or so-called customer base. People are not so-called traditional, those kind of patrons. Even people maybe have totally no idea about how to collect. This is very common. You see, the very typical demographic customer picture of the crypto art is young, mostly male, yeah, and some large, most of those guys, they made their wills only on crypto, only within crypto, and they have no experience to visit those, those physical galleries. And most of those guys have never entered those galleries or those auction houses, right? And also kind of those, what they are looking for within those artworks are different. They are not going to make those artwork as a somehow like a vehicle to show off their social status. They are not going to use those artwork somehow to to show off their wills, but they just like to have some kind of artworks to resonate their kind of inner kind of belief of the crypto or of other kind of diversity things. So this is totally different with the traditional, previous traditional art market. So this is why so-called established artists should not expect that even same level of pricing in this new market, since the mechanism, the whole mechanism, the whole demographic things are different with the previous. And also the pricing, the pricing system is not established here within the crypto art domain. You cannot give somehow a so-called fair price to everyone. To every artist. It's just like somehow like the very early days of the traditional art world. Art world. And it means that you like this, I pay this. I like this, I pay this, right? It totally depends on how many people are going to bid. Yeah. So this is different. And at the previous traditional so-called art industry or art market, those galleries actually did decide what kind of initial price for every single artwork. But in this market, it is somehow like we jump off the primary market. We go directly into the secondary market. And even for those so-called gallery-like marketplace, for example, like Squirterer, this is also an open secondary, not secondary, the open and the transparent auction-based or offer-based marketplace. This is totally different with the previous one. So I think that the mechanism is changing tremendously. And the whole structure of power, whole structure of influence is also changing. demographic picture is totally different. So I don't think that those traditional artists should expect something, they are familiar with in the traditional world in this new domain.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think, as more collectors and I guess more tastes enter the market space as well, those, you're going to see more competition. I think we've seen quite a roller coaster ride in the past few months, especially on some of these platforms with just the emergence of NFTs and these just astronomical bid wars happening. And then you're starting to see a more mature market to kind of emerge from it, and you're starting to see other new collectors coming into the space. And so I think I guess my final question would be, because I actually started collecting just a few weeks ago, and I find it quite addicting. And so I just purchased 2 this morning at auction. So as an artist who's looking to become a collector, sort of what advice would you have for them?
Yeah, I think for artists to be a collector, you are in the best place to do this. I think artist is the best collector. Artists can somehow best resonate to those other artists. Yeah, so you see that a lot of those artists, crypto artists, actually they are big collectors, like Martin, right? And also like a lot of money. These are also ex-copy. They collect a lot of those artworks, good artworks, masterpieces from other peers at the very early days of the crypto art world. So you see, to be an artist, then you are in a very good position to talk with other artists, to know what they are doing, and also to understand what they are going to deliver, going to create. And also you can give advice. You can give good advice, good suggestions to those artists you are going to collect, or maybe you can be the so-called co-author or co-worker with the artist you are going to collect. And also, I think that artists are also somehow like tending to give favorable price quotation to other artist collectors. So I think this is very good to be an artist collector.
That's good. And I also try and recommend to other artists when they ask me now that I'm collecting, how do I choose my art? And I said, well, maybe try and bid on another piece of art, and then you start to see what you like and what, the psychology, how you would think. It's just like shopping, right? And so like, what do you like? And it's taste, and it's, what's your budget range, and is it something that speaks to you, that resonates with you and would fit kind of your personality. And that's sort of, I always tell the same thing, because I think everybody is shilling their work to me now, and they're just saying buy my work, because we're also artists. And I said, yeah, but just because it's like, I think the psychology is there once you start to flip the script and you actually put your own money down on someone else's work, and you see the value in it, that you start to see some insight into how it's like to be a collector, which I always sort of recommend for artists getting into the space. I'm just conscious of time. Bianca, did you have any final questions?
No, I don't have any.
Okay, fantastic. Well, Kao, super pleasure, very inspirational chat with you today. I'm so glad that we were able to connect here for Crypto Week Asia. And yeah, we look forward to hearing from you real soon.
Yeah, thank you so much. We learned a lot today, and there's so many things that you have mentioned that we haven't even considered yet. So yeah, there's so many learnings right now. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you all. Also glad to talk with you.